Hello and welcome to Abe's Star Trek podcast, where I am reviewing any and all live action episodes of Star Trek, and so far I'm getting to the tail end, fortunately, of season one of the original series. And today I will be doing a bit of a commentary and review of the season one, episode 22, Return of the Archons. Now, I remember a few bits about this episode. Again, that this one's not really one of my favorites, uh, so it's one that I've not watched much. The few things that I do remember is that there does, for some reason, there's some kind of undercover work on a planet that Kirk and Spock are involved in. I remember there's some really weak ass weapons with these poles that are meant to do something. I can't quite remember what. Um, and I think there's some kind of computer running things, but that's pretty much all I can tell you about the episode from at this point. They're the main things I remember from the last time I watched it, which has been, several years. So let's delve in with season one, episode 22, Return of the Archons, and see how it starts. And let's do this episode. The episode starts on a planet um, with Sulu and another guy who's named O'Neill. I'm assuming it's another officer of some kind on the Enterprise. Down, uh, these two are down on this planet. It kind of seems to be a 60s city type level of technology. You only get to see the various buildings that are around. They themselves are dressed in what I would call ye older English kind of outfits. So whatever they were sent to investigate, it wasn't meant to be an undercover kind of situation. But whatever's happening, they're obviously scared of it. Um, and we see that they're being chased or surrounded by these guys. They seem to be in some kind of druid type robes, brown druid type robes. It's the best way I would describe it. O'Neill is, scared of them, and Sulu, calls us up to the ship and asks for an immediate beam out. Why it takes so long for that beam out to happen, I don't know. But O'Neill runs from the location where where they are. Sulu stays, waiting for the beam out to happen, and these druid type guys manage to get one of the poles that they're holding, touches Sulu in the chest in a kind of heart area, and he then seems to get this blissful, peaceful, I'm a hippie drug guy uh, look on his face. So let's see what that actually means to him. So the remaining part of the opening section shows Sulu having beamed up alone without O'Neill, and he's obviously been affected by uh, whatever these people did to him. He's using phrases like "you're not of the body," whatever that means. He's enthralled by someone called Landru. Not quite sure who that is at this point, but um, he can tell that he's not where he's supposed to be. And when Kirk tries to find out where O'Neill is, Sulu has no idea who he's talking about. And Sulu is just kind of saying that he's in paradise. And then we get to the opening title. So it seems like whatever this poll does, it managed to rather quickly and effectively brainwash Sulu to believing whatever these druid type people, are wanting or needing him to believe. So after the opening titles, we get the initial captain's log where we get the background to what's going on. Being that Sulu and this other guy had actually beamed down to this planet, trying to find out what happened to a ship, the USS Archon, that disappeared over 100 years ago. So that would have been somewhere in the 2200s, give or take if my timeline is correct. Um, and trying to find out, what happened to that ship that disappeared in this area all the way back then. Uh, little curious as to why it took them so long to to do this investigation, but as far as 100 years is concerned, I can certainly understand in some respects with it taking a while to for another ship to be able to get out there. But 100 years, if a ship has been lost, one would have thought this would have been followed up a while ago. But anyway, um, due to the state that Sulu arrived back to the ship in, Kirk has decided to be down with um, Spock, McCoy, and a few other miscellaneous people who are going to be miscellaneous red shirts. Not, but they're again wearing standard clothes for the planet, not their Qapla uniforms. Again, needing to remain under the radar. Uh, why he brought down such a large team, I don't know. I can totally understand him going down with one or two people, possibly, but um, in my mind, when trying to kind of keep under the radar, the more people you have, the harder it is to do. So let's see how well this away team fares with kind of tracking down what's happened to the ship and trying to find out whatever Silhouette was about with not being on the body. So here we go. So Kirk and landing party starting to meander around the town. Just go a little bit up the street and they're seeing that people have got the same kind of vacant mindlessness, contentment look on them. Spock is wearing a black hood to prevent his ears and alienness being clearly visible. As they're walking along, they get approached by a gentleman who is talking to them about some kind of festival that he thinks they've come for, and that there's a place that they can sleep it off at, just around the corner. The festival, there's a young woman who comes around to them as well, and this gentleman says that, well, this lady's father can kind of put you up for when needed. And then the clock tolls 6, and after the 6 chimes, it's like a big clock tower thing. Everyone they lose their inhibitions and start going crazy. So what is actually going on here that brings them at 6 o'clock, whether or not that's every day or it gets called the red hour, so whether or not it lasts for an hour or lasts for the night or something, we'll find out, I'm sure. But it's, everyone just goes completely nuts. So Kirk and party are assaulted a little bit as they're going through the streets while everyone is going nuts, breaking windows and making out and whatever, uh, until they find the place that had been told to them that they could rest up after the festival. They go in and they see 3 people in there, 3 older gentlemen. One by the name of Roger, who is the father of the girl that was out in the streets. Um, and they introduce themselves as being from the valley, which is kind of the cover story that the other gentleman gave them. And these 3 are kind of a little surprised to see them not out there kind of partying their brains out, but being rather civilized. And Roger is saying, well, they're here to, just here for rest. And one of them is saying, well, I'm surprised, to see them here like this. I mean, aren't there lawgivers who I'm assuming are the druid type guys that we were seeing earlier, in the valley, which means that, why wouldn't they be, converted with that pole touch, whatever the hell it is, themselves. So let's see how they, and, one of I'll call them a red shirt because we don't know the person's name, or at least I don't think I heard it, but, one of the red shirts says to Roger, well, your daughter's out there, don't you want to take care of her? He's like, well, she's taking part in the festival. And the red hour's not up yet. So, let's see how this continues. So 2 of the 3 people, seem willing to help them and accepting, of the fact that things are happening a little differently for them than, the rest of the town. The third one, Hakem, is very suspicious of them, and thinking that the lawgiver should be told that that these guys are not of the body, whatever that is, from the and based on the fact that they're not out there, kind of partying like nuts. Uh, so this could very easily lead to further trouble for Kirk and crew. Um, there's obviously some kind of kind of brainwashing that's happened here. Not quite sure what the point of it is at this point. Um, I'll just have to watch more of the episode to get some further information here. But they Regia is escorting Kirk and party to into the room that they can stay in, while they wait for the Red Hour and festival to be over. So once they get to the room with Regia, they start to ask questions. What can you tell us about the festival? What can you tell us about Landru? And this is obviously raising some really big alarm bells, with them, because I'm assuming anyone who's part of the body would know, the answers to these questions and would actually be out there celebrating, acting crazy with everyone else, as opposed to being inside and acting, well, somewhat sane. So these questions are going to, kind of cause some further issues, I'm sure. So during the next 12 hours, Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the landing party try to see if there's any reason why this has been happening. And Kirk figures that they've got all night to figure out how to proceed from here. So they and the rest of the away team kind of sleeps the night off, and then comes 6 a.m. So it's obviously a nighttime thing. From 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. they go completely nuts. Then from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. they're these quiet, contemplative people. The daughter has come back, and she's obviously very distressed about whatever happened while she was out there. And McCoy gives her a sedative of some form to help calm her down. And Kirk is continuing to ask questions about who Landru is and what just went on. And obviously this is going to raise some alarm bells for the people who are there. Harkon has still not returned, but I'm sure that's about to change. So they do confirm that they're not of the body. They go into another kind of social area or big lounge room thing, and Regia asks, are you Archons? And before they can get any information about what that means, Harkon has come back with two lawgivers. He ends up either stunning or killing what the other guy, the other old guy, and threatens Kirk with absorption, whatever that means at this point. I'm guessing that's similar to what happened to Sulu. Sulu may have been absorbed, whatever, in terms of becoming one with the body, I guess. But we'll see whether or not Kirk actually lets that happen and how things progress from here. I mean, I do have some issues with this. The fact that the weapon is so simple a pole, really, they couldn't have come up with something a little better than that. But yeah, as far as the actual story itself so far, I need a little more. So a bit further into the story now, and when Kirk disagrees to or does not acquiesce to go with them to be absorbed, again, whatever the heck that means, the lawgivers have no clue as to how to really respond, and Spock asked how Kirk knew that that's how they would react, and Kirk makes a logical assumption that everyone has got this compulsion to obey, and that there's very little disobedience that happens on, and so they don't know. The lawgivers just don't know how to handle it, which in and of itself is interesting in some ways, but also it really does make you wonder who's giving the instructions here. what is actually going on. Further to that, when Spock looks at one of the weapons that they use to kill the other guy with, um, he finds it's just a metal pipe, that there's nothing in it. So just wondering how the heck something came from nothing, so to speak, to cause that death, but that's another issue altogether. Um, and Kirk says, well, if you will come when we're ready, and we'll speak only to Landru. And again, they're clueless as to how to respond to that. It's like no one's ever asked to speak to the guy before. So, which is, again, very odd. One would think that someone with this much power and control over a society would have to make an appearance somehow, and not just be, or have these lawgivers be his face, if you will. That in of itself just doesn't seem right. So let's just continue the episode and see more about what's going on here. So the one guy who is prepared to back up and support Kirk's, for lack of a better word, resistance, I guess, takes him and the away team, or tells them there's a safe place where they can hide away from Landru and his followers. They leave the apartment building that they've been staying in and walk in this calm, peaceful way that everyone else seems to be. And again, a very interesting thing is happening, which I agree with Kirk at not quite understanding. In the night before, is that during some 12-hour period, it seems, there's, and I don't know whether this is every night or once a week or how frequently this happens, but they go from being these calm, collected, peaceful people to being outright party animals, for lack of a way to put it. And why someone or something that has that level of control over these people would release them in that way, or would feel a need to have those kinds of actions happen, I even on a periodic basis, I don't quite understand why that would be necessary. And Kirk is equally puzzled by it as well. And they continue on their way. They pass the person whose daughter was attacked, and he's again just being a peaceful member of society, as though nothing happened. Further to that, then all of a sudden, everyone pauses. It's like someone puts, with the exception of this one person that's helping them, the whole area just freezes. And the guy who's helping them says, it's Landru, he's summoning the body, and they notice that everyone is coming up to them, now with weapons, ostensibly to attack them. So it seems that whatever is controlling, Spock seems to think it's some kind of telepathy, but if it is, that's got to be on a rather massive scale, and I would not want to be in the presence of someone with that big of a head, because I imagine that if it is biological telepathy of some kind, that someone's got to have an enormous mental capacity of some form to be able to pull that kind of stuff off. Which, again, doesn't really hold much of a basis in what's going on. It's still not holding a lot of water for me. So Kirk and party, led by Roger, who's the guy helping them, continue to run from the body, the people who were trying to chase him down. The thing which I find funny and odd about this is that they're not running, or at least the people aren't. Kirk and party are, but I'm trying to find a safe place to hide. And they have to, stun a few people in order to get through. In the group of people that they stun, they find one of the people that they came to the planet to look for and find, Lieutenant O'Neill. So that's one positive thing, but they find that he's actually been absorbed, and he is now part of the body, and that Roger says that, well, when he awakes, Landru, and by extension the people will, or the body, will find them through him, which is a fair concern, I suppose, given whatever the heck absorption is. But I don't get why they're not running. I mean, whatever this control is, I mean, they're clearly able to move around normally during what I will call the witching hours, that 12-hour time period. Festival, they called it. But when they're under Landru's power like this, it's just one step, two step, one step, two step. And it's just puzzling to me. I mean, I don't get the level of control thing and how that's working, but yeah, let's move on. So Kirk and Party managed to find a secure place to hide for a while, and in that place that Roger has led them to, he reveals a light panel, something which is more than just torches in the electric light, something that would be a bit more advanced in order to light the room they're in. Which, yeah, anyway. And he's understandably concerned about detection, so Kirk agrees to keep Lieutenant O'Neill under, at least for the time being. They also find out that there's a bit of an underground happening to resist Landru, which is organized in threes, which was him, Roger, Tamar, who was his contact with the underground, and one other person who was going to be, who I suppose is another contact somewhere along the way, that we don't know who that is yet, or if ever in this episode. But we also find out that Landru, whoever or whatever that is, has been around for around 6,000 years, give or take, which leads me to believe that it can't be a person. There's got to be some kind of technology, but how that technology would work and how it would need to be maintained somehow, because, well, even in the 24th century, and that this show is set in, technology needs to be maintained. It's not something that can just be left on its own. So whatever it is, maybe the technology is failing somehow. Maybe that's what's causing the witching hour, or something. But yeah, let's see. So not long after entering this chamber, Spock did a bit of a reading and found that there was some very powerful energy. There was a very powerful energy source somewhere nearby. Couldn't quite localize it yet. And we get a bit more of exposition happening here, where Roger gives a bit more of a history of the area, being that Landru existed before the Archons came, and that the Archons somehow were able to resist the will of Landru, and that there were some people on the planet who were able to resist it, whatever the heck it was. And that Landru had a power somehow to bring the Archon starship down to destroy it. This, understandably, concerns Kurtz, who calls up to the ship and finds out that, yes, the Enterprise is being attacked, and after some conversation with Scotty, realize that they've got about 12 hours to find out what's happening and stop it. Again, the logic here is escaping me a bit, but let's move on to the episodes, see if we can't get some more explanation. So next we get a holographic recording of this Landru person that I safely assume existed some 6,000 plus years ago. And he's saying that you've come as destroyers, and you bring an infection with you. You're on this world which does not know hate, does not know fear, and all these things. And in a lot of ways, because of what my own belief of what Satan is, it's a bit of a satanic world, really. And not to bring religion into this too much, but uh, Satan is all about control, whereas there's the alternative of choice. And what Landru has done or is doing somehow with absorbing people into the body is taking away their choice and taking absolute control to make them feel peace and contentment, which uh, is just not right, just not part of what the human condition should be. But anyway, after this piece of rhetoric idea that we get, Landru somehow manages to stun everyone in the room, which I safely assume is going to lead to their capture, given that he knows where they are. So, Kirk is the first to wake up after being the last to get knocked out. Takes a bit of a look around where they are, finds it's a secure underground facility of some kind, or at least it appears to be underground. And realizes that all their equipment is gone, wakes everyone else up, realizes that Dr. McCoy, one of the security people, and Lieutenant O'Neill are not there with them. Spock makes a bit of a comment that the way that the lawgivers responded to Kirk's lack of defiance a little while ago was similar to the way a computer might react to inadequate or contradictory information, which seems to support the theory that I had earlier, that whatever's going on, there's some kind of technology behind it. It doesn't quite answer all the questions that may be had, because the lawgivers are clearly human, but somehow being controlled. A little time later, McCoy comes back along with the security guard person, and McCoy has, I'm assuming, been absorbed into the body because despite all of Kirk's attempts to make him remember, he's behaving like one of the inhabitants of the planet now, all peaceful and content and whatnot, and having no memory of Kirk and the Enterprise and everything that they've gone through, which is a very fair concern as to whether or not those memories are just being blocked by whatever this absorption process is, or if they've been erased, which is an even greater concern. And we'll see more in a few moments, I guess. So Kirk ends up being the next one having to be, or requested to be taken. And we find that he's taken to another chamber, where he's secured to a wall by some kind of technology. And here's where we really get a contradiction. I mean, we've got futuristic technology that's being held by, or used by, an, I don't know, say 18th century level of people, which, again, making very little sense. We do get to meet someone else at this point, who tells the other lawgivers to leave. It's their hour, whatever that means, and to commune. And he starts to operate, this guy's named Marplan, and he starts to operate this machine, which I assume is the absorption machine that somehow affects the brain in ways that we don't quite understand to get them, to get people to behave the way they want them to. Back with Spock and the rest of the away team, he's trying to see if he can help McCoy, but not really able to, and then he's the next one to be taken. So Kirk and Spock meet again in the absorption chamber. Kirk is acting as though he is being absorbed, and Spock then gets hooked up to the machine, and after the lawgivers leave, Marplan explains that he is actually a third member of Rager's Triad, his underground group, and that Kirk was just faking the whole thing to get out of there. And he instructs Spock to behave as though he's been absorbed, but he manages to give Spock back his weapons just in time before the lawgivers see what's going on, and they leave the room. Now it's starting to get to the real interesting parts of this. So Kirk and Spock reunite again back in the prison chamber, for lack of a better word. They realize they have to be careful about what they say because McCoy is, watching them and starts to have some minor suspicions, but they manage to at least get their, have the conversations they need. And Kirk and Spock are realizing that this society is all being run by a computer. And that, somehow, Kirk is, says that the plug must be pulled, the computer, Landru or this computer must die. Spock is a little concerned about, the Prime Directive, which is an understandable concern because, the Prime Directive essentially does state, it's a policy of non-interference in developing cultures, but this culture hasn't developed. It's, by the sound of it, it's been stuck this way for around 6,000 years. So I can certainly agree with Kirk's perspective that the Prime Directive would not apply because this is not a developing culture. It's stagnated in this way. And I wonder if in the thoughts of what they're proposing to do, if they're also thinking about what's going to happen in the aftermath. Because for a society that hasn't learned to think for itself for that long, is thrust into a situation where they are forced to, it does raise questions of whether they will somehow be able to get it together and be the developing society that we hope they will be, or if they're going, if it's just going to be self-destructive, somehow, without proper laws and those to and people to enforce them, politicians to make and guide those laws, much as we may disagree with some of the things that they say, and the various other parts of society that must exist in order for a society to properly grow and develop. So let's keep watching and see what happens next. So Marplon and Richard come back, and Marplon gives Kirk the communicators now, so they're back to having practically all their equipment. McCoy has realized that they're faking it all and summons the lawgivers, and Kirk knocks him out. And here's the thing which I find hilarious, is it's taken them until now to just punch out the lawgivers. I mean, really? I mean, they're clearly not moving at a fast pace, so they're not, they're moving the same one step, two step, two step the rest of society does. And so they would have easily been able to be taken out. But it's only just now that they do that. But anyway, Kirk tries to find out where Landru is from Marplon. Marplon is very reserved and afraid to do this. My guess is that due to the indoctrination and fear of what will happen if Landru finds them. They're concerned that they're going to him. Well, yeah. Anyway. They also find out that the Enterprise, that it's been about 6 hours since their last communication with the Enterprise, because the orbit continues to decay, and they're very close to, and they're within 6 hours of, being destroyed themselves. So let's just watch the last part of the episode and I'll summarize the rest from there. So for the remainder of the episode, Reja, or Reja, however you want to say his name, loses his nerve when they say that they're going to go visit Landru's Hall of Audiences. And Marplon also is very hesitant. They end up having to knock Rieger out. And Kirk, Spock, and Marplon go dressed in lawgivers' robes to the Hall of Audiences. And they find Landru is indeed a computer. They have to blast their way through the projection thing where he is, but the fun, and instead of just being able to blow him up, they have to take him out with a logic puzzle, essentially, and quite a valid one, because essentially saying that because you've taken away choice, you've taken away creativity, and therefore you are the evil, you are the thing which is proving to be unhealthy for the body, and it ends up self-destructing. Point of view which I couldn't agree with more. And after that, Kirk and away team beam up. Their society has been brought back to a human state, with and Lindstrom and a team of experts have been left behind on the planet to help organize them and facilitate the society's growth, to be a healthy one rather than and he reports there have been a couple of bar fights and things that are happening, but and that it's not paradise, but at least it's human. It's not the robotic control that Landru had, and essentially, so the episode ends. So, as a few last kind of comments, it was an interesting view of what of a machine-run society and how that would potentially operate versus the way that society really is run with good choices, bad choices, and everything in between. But yeah, overall, an interesting enough episode. I will say not one of my favorites, but it does give a few good food for thought points. But yeah, I want to thank all of you for listening to to this one today with me, and as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you've got any thoughts, concerns, questions, opinions. More than happy to take some feedback on board. And as always, live long and prosper, and Qapla.